All right, guys, finally, y'all have asked for it. Y'all have asked for fantasy baseball content, and I've told y'all for a very long time now that I don't know enough. I can't sit here and confidently say that I'm going to be able to help you in your leagues on my own. So instead, I brought someone out here that can do that. I brought Aaron out here. We are going to be talking about starting pitcher targets in this video. We should have a couple other videos that are coming out later on this week. As always, at the very beginning of this video, I'm sure y'all saw where you can find Aaron and yada, yada, yada. So if you enjoy this, make sure you go out there and reach out to him. But let's get into this, Aaron. And you brought us 3 starting pitcher targets. And the first guy, by no surprise, is going to be Aaron Nola. Right now, going at the very end of the second round in NFC drafts. What do you like about Aaron Nola, and what is making him appealing in that pick range?
Mason, before we get into Aaron Nola, let me just start off by saying starting pitchers in general going early is a trend amongst the early drafters, these industry drafters who are putting up the big bucks and playing in these big leagues for big prizes and putting their reputations on the line. And typically that's not quite the path that draft season takes. Typically these pitchers don't get pushed up until the home leagues start to draft. So industry leagues have been more hitter friendly early, but now they've gone the exact opposite. On average, 7 of the top 20 overall picks are going to be starting pitchers in drafts, and 14 different starting pitchers have already gone inside the top 25 overall at their minimum or earliest pick. We like to say min pick.
Is that supply and demand?
Yeah, and again, exactly. The reason behind this is because you need to get those elite innings pitched early because they become scarce more quickly. So what do we need to look for? Like, what is that thing in an early starting pitcher that we should be looking for? We should be looking for 200 innings pitched or somewhere around there and about 225 strikeouts, or at least a recent history of doing these things. Or maybe even a guy who you believe and industry experts may be saying have the upside to get there. And you want their ERA to be somewhere around 3.0 and the whip around 1.10. So if you're playing in fantasy baseball, you have an idea of what earned run average and walks and hits per inning pitched are. In points leagues, a little different. Innings to strikeouts are more valuable. So you need to know your settings. That's the first bit of advice I want to tell everyone about anything I ever say here for the flock. Know your settings in your league. Well, there's someone just outside the top 20 overall picks. You mentioned him, Aaron Nola of the Philadelphia Phillies, going about 22nd overall in the last 2 weeks over at the NFC, the NFBC. Going in round 2 with a pitcher like Nola, you can pair him with a first round 5 category hitter, which is a huge advantage. In 2018 and 2019, Nola's ERA averaged out to 3.1. He threw on average 207 innings with 226 strikeouts and a 1.17 whip. Now you could compare that to other pitchers who are going early in drafts, like Trevor Bauer, who's a free agent, hopefully signing with my Mets here soon. He's going 16th overall, so like a half a round or almost a full round earlier, depending on who you're playing with. In that same time frame, Bauer had a 3.45 ERA. Less innings pitched, around the same amount of strikeouts, and a higher whip. If you aren't picking at the end of round 1 where Bauer's going, you can get a similar or better pitcher near the end of round 2 with Nola. Plus, you'll have that top level hitter. He's the perfect complement to not going crazy on the starting pitchers like early drafters are doing, but also getting what you need from your top starting pitcher. So I fully recommend taking a hitter and then going Aaron Nola.
Well, that's what I actually saw. I know last year was a very short sample size, so it's hard to draw a lot from that. But I mean, last year, his opponent batting average was sitting around 200. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. He had 96 strikeouts for 71 plate appearances. So really what stood out to me was the strikeout rate that he had last year. But like I said, how are you kind of approaching the numbers that we saw a year ago, because it was the smaller sample and really so many different variables moving around that we haven't seen before?
This is going to be a trend in fantasy experts and analysis throughout the entire preseason is what are you doing with the 2020 season? And We have decided, or my colleagues and I at our site have decided that we're going to first take a look at what we thought about these players heading into the 2020 season and not forget that and weigh that kind of heavily, because you can't weigh such a small sample in 2020 at a full season's weight. And so, of course, we're going to include what happened, because it did happen, but we are going to take more heavily into account how we viewed these guys heading into the 2020 season, and then make minor adjustments based on what they did. Aaron Nola did nothing wrong in 2020. He only got better. His curveball is one of the best pitches in all of baseball. And so I am all over Aaron Nola in all my drafts.
All right. Well, it sounds like that would be kind of a cheat code to pair him with like a Mookie Betts at the very beginning. But anyway, let's get to someone who's going at the beginning of the 4th round. This is Zack Greinke. Let me know why you were pinpointing him as another draft day target for the pitching position.
Yeah, just another starting pitcher. He's going about just around 40 overall. And, if you choose to take your hitters early while everyone else is taking starting pitching, or if you want to build on your early starting pitcher, so let's say you fall into a draft slot where you can take a Garrett Cole or a Shane Bieber or a Jake DeGrom, and you want to do this pocket ace, which is a total misnomer, but this pocket ace strategy, especially in points leagues, because strikeouts, the strikeout potential of your pitchers, those points just add up in your points leagues. And Zack Greinke is the perfect guy out in Arizona. He doesn't have a huge Major League Baseball track record. He's already been actually traded twice in his career, and he's just 25 years old. In 2017, he was one of the pieces from the Cardinals that went to the Marlins for Marcell Ozuna. And then in 2019, again, the Marlins turned around and traded him to the Diamondbacks on the same day that Arizona traded for Zack Greinke. And he's been their target to replace Greinke as the ace of that staff since that day. And since that day, he's been excellent. 27 starts, a 2.78 ERA, over 152 innings pitched with 178 strikeouts and a 1.17 whip. When you target Zack Greinke in your drafts, you can bank 180 innings pitched and 210 strikeouts. This guy was primed for a breakout. He was about to be the next big name of starting pitchers right before COVID. Take this as the last chance you can get on a discount to get Zack Greinke as one of the top pitchers in baseball.
And would you be comfortable leaving your draft with him as your number 1 starting pitcher? Or is he someone that you want to follow back around after you took someone else with your 1st, 2nd, or 3rd pick?
I am perfectly comfortable with Zack Greinke as my number 1. That means that I have got 3 of the most elite hitters in baseball already in my lineup. I'm so far ahead in categories at this stage that if I'm going to build pitching depth, and I can start with a guy who's going to give me 180 innings at more than a strikeout per inning clip with a great walks and hits per innings pitched, like 1.1. Wow. This is an awesome strategy, an awesome angle to take. Get Zack Greinke. Like I said, get Zack Greinke now before your friends find out how good he is.
All right. Well, some of the same teams taking Zack Greinke are taking the next pitcher. Do you want to reveal him? Your last guy going at the end of the 6th round right now?
This is not a homer call either, but one starting pitcher that I would reach for, and I don't typically like to really reach very far early in drafts because you want to let the draft fall to you. You want to be able to react and see how your opponents are constructing their rosters. But someone that I would love to reach for in a lot of drafts is Carlos Carrasco, who is currently being drafted 66th overall. But I would go as high as like 45 to 50 range. So at least a full round earlier. He was way more than a throw-in the Francisco Lindor trade to the Mets. He's way easy to root for. The CLM, the blood cancer disorder that was discovered in him in 2019 set him on a really weird path. But before that, I mean, this guy was top notch. In 2017 and 2018, he averaged 196 innings pitched with a 3.3 ERA, 17 wins a season, and 228 strikeouts per year with a 1.11 whip. He slots in perfectly behind Jake DeGrom. Citi Field, a great park for pitchers. They secretly last year put in a humidor to make it even better. If all falls right, I mean, I know this is going to sound homerish and crazy, but I really think that Cookie Carrasco has a chance to be a top 10 starting pitcher overall.
Man, a quick side note. How excited are you for your Mets with new ownership?
Man, I pinch myself every single morning and just think, really, like the Wilpons are actually gone. This is amazing.
Yeah, no, that's what I know. A couple of Mets fans that are absolutely ecstatic that they're finally going to spend money to bring some people in.
Absolutely. Let's go Mets.
All right. Well, last thing, any other quick targets you want to mention? Anything after that you want to plug so people can go out there and find more of your content if they like this?
Yeah, of course, we do a lot of relief pitching. And so on the Perfectly Framed podcast, we are a relief pitching centered podcast, but we do talk about starters and we do talk about how you can apply a strategy between starting pitching and relief pitching as you go through your drafts. And one of the guys who's kind of under the radar, and if you look at his stats, you're going to say, I don't know what else I can do with him and why he's going so early in drafts. That's Kyle Hendricks with the Chicago Cubs. Not a huge fireball strikeout guy, but he's going so much later in drafts, 5th, 6th round. If you can get Kyle Hendricks in the 5th round and you can just plant those ratios, that 3 ERA, that low whip, and all those innings pitched, even if he only gives you 130 or 140 strikeouts, but you can pair him with one of those elite relief pitchers early on, go out and get a relief pitcher early, a Josh Hader, a Edwin Diaz, one of those types to pair with Kyle Hendricks, that becomes a really good 1-2 punch and another way to get around having to draft really super early pitching like has been happening in the industry draft so far.
Awesome. Well, I think that's enough for this video. As always, go down there, drop a like, leave a comment letting us know what you thought, some other pitchers that you are wanting to go target yourself. And I'm going to leave all the links that you want to go to find Aaron in the description of the video below. So yeah, that's it. We'll see y'all with the video tomorrow.